Well, good Thursday morning to you. This is Pastor Mark Pierce from Church Liable, and welcome to Matthew study number 100. Woohoo! It's hard to believe that we've done 100 of these Bible studies so far. I just thought that since it was a kind of a special episode, that at least today and maybe for the next day or two, we should come outside since it's so pretty here on the day that I'm recording this. Actually, I am standing in a place called Bicentennial Park. This is just south of where I live, and this is a very special place for me and my family, which is why I picked it out for study number 100. Where I am standing, or very near where I'm standing, is where my oldest daughter and son-in-law were married about 7 or 8 years ago. We had an outside wedding, and the temperature was a bit warmer than what it is right now, but the skies were definitely not this blue. We were very touch and go all day long as to whether or not we'd be able to pull off the wedding. So I thought it would be kind of fun to have a Bible study or two or maybe three here at Bicentennial Park. Well, enough of the celebration, enough of the fun. If you have your Bible this morning, take your Bible out and turn to Matthew chapter 5. One other thing I was going to say to you while you're getting at your Bible, I'm probably going to start changing the titles of this. I figure 100, if you're ever going to make a change, on a nice round number like this is the time to do it. I think I'm going to keep the count. We'll keep the 100 and keep adding up. But I think I'm going to change the titles for Matthew study number 100. Why do that? Well, just from the standpoint of people finding it, it's going to be a lot harder for people to find. It gets boring. Matthew study 100, Matthew study 101. I mean, what are we going to do when we get to Matthew study 500? Rather, we're going to maybe give some title to this so that when someone is looking up on the web, they can find this. So a little change you might find. All right. Here we go. Matthew chapter 5. And we'll, again today, read 21 and 22. And then tomorrow and the next day, we'll get into 23 and 24. You have heard that it was said to those of old, "You shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says, 'You fool,' will be liable to the hell of fire." Now, we've looked at this for a couple of days, and I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. First of all, I don't think Jesus is saying here that being angry and insulting someone is exactly the same thing as murder, or is as bad as murder. We can kind of draw the wrong conclusion from that. And I know this is kind of an extreme, but I wouldn't want anyone to say, well, you know what? I'm angry with that person, so I just might as well go kill them anyway because I've already killed them in my mind. That works backwards. It's one thing to say, I don't think I want to be angry with you because that's the same thing in my mind as murdering you. And I think that was a point that Jesus was making. The issue here is the word liable. That we're liable to the court, or we're liable to the council, or we're liable to the hell of fire. Do you see that word? I mean, it's repeated 3 different times, and yet we miss it. What I think we're getting at here is that there are multiple ways of creating liability. There are multiple ways of getting to the point where we sin. And in typical fashion, most of us would say it's the things that I do on the outside of my life, that the actions that I have, that create liability, that create the sin, that put me into a position where I am not right with God. And Jesus is simply saying here, hey, wait a minute, guys. It's important that you have it right in here as well as right on the outside. Men and courts and one another, we look at the outside, but God is someone who looks at us on the inside, and he sees things inside of us that honestly sometimes we don't even see about ourselves. And so I think that what he's getting at here is you've got to understand that anger, that sin, that way of thinking that would be wrong about someone else, that is as much a liability to you. That is as much a sin. That is as much as something that is going to separate you from God as if you went out and you murdered someone. We're not trying here to compare one sin to another or to say that one sin is worse than another. It would certainly seem to me that the murder of someone would be worse than being angry with someone. But the point here, and this is what we can't miss, is that Jesus is saying both will separate you from God. You cannot be unreconciled to somebody else and at the same time expect yourself to be reconciled with God. Tomorrow when we come back, we're going to talk more about this issue of reconciliation, because there are two practical things that Jesus tells us about in the next couple of verses. So thank you for joining me on this Thursday morning. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you again on Friday.